Why shouldn't we rule ourselves? We married the dragons and they're all dead. There sits the only king I mean to bow my knee, my lords. The king in the north! What up, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, your favorite full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. I'm Nate, joining me as always, my brother and co-host, Zach.
What you gonna do, brother?
Apparently stumble and bumble all over my words.
Stumble and bumble. What up, I'm Zach. I'm not stumbling and bumbling. Now that I said that, I'm gonna stumble and bumble my way through the rest of this episode.
I hope so.
We read Game of Thrones here, and then we like to talk about it. If you've joined us before, thank you for coming back. Thank you for this chance. We appreciate it. If you've never listened before, we will spoil the shit out of Game of Thrones for you, especially since we are on the second to last chapter of the book. So, go read it.
Yeah, I mean, we really only have one more chapter to spoil, technically. The dragons come. Boom!
Bam,
spoiled it.
Spoiled.
Right off the bat.
Shit.
Anyway.
Well, you're the worst.
You know.
So, if you joined us last episode, we were reading Jon's final chapter in A Game of Thrones, Jon 9. And in it, Jon took a little midnight ride. We mentioned the color red was prominent about his decision, this inner turmoil that Maester Aemon had mentioned of having to choose what was right and what was honorable. You didn't even call it out. You didn't even soda, bottle.
Because I can't.
Can.
Yeah, it doesn't work as well as can.
But Aemon had told him that every man would have to choose at some point, and this was Jon's time. And he rode out, and then his friends came, and Ghost kind of led them to him, we believe. And Jon was brought back, and Mormont said, yeah, no, I knew you were going to do it, but you came back. And now I need to know you're not going to puss out on me, because we're going north of the wall, and I want you and that little wolf of yours, that little guy, with us. And
so, yeah. Usually we do our recaps of the last character. And so this week we're reading Damn it.
Usually we do our recaps?
Yeah, don't we do the recaps of Catelyn's last chapter?
Yeah.
And you're doing Jon's, even though it was the one before
we do. That was last episode.
I just felt like interrupting you anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and then this week we're reading Catelyn. And when we last left Catelyn, she was waiting in the Whispering Wood for word of her son and the trap that they were springing on Sir Jaime Lannister. And it went successfully. Jaime Lannister was delivered and thrown in front of her horse, and she demanded her husband and her daughters back. And Jaime seemed to have misplaced those, as he did his sword.
Whoopsie.
And he was taken away, and Robb was being angsty, looking off into the woods.
We've also seen the aftermath of that through Tyrion's eyes, which was the chapter before the Jon chapter that Zach just recapped for you. You want to do Tyrion also?
No, I'm good.
Okay, you good?
Yeah.
All right, he's good. So we do know that the Riverrun was taken back by the Starks and the Stark forces, and so that's pretty much where we're going to open on this chapter, which, by the way, this is Catelyn 11, Chapter 69 of Game of Thrones.
Nice. Yeah, we're children. Okay. It seemed 1,000 years ago to Catelyn that she had carried the infant Robb out of Riverrun across the tumblestones to Winterfell. And it was across the tumblestones that they came back now. Only the young boy wore plate and mail. So they're returning. We are opening with Cat with her return to her ancestral home where her Lord Father, Hoster Tully, has been sick and bedridden.
Yeah.
And so Robb sat in the bow because they are taking little ships there.
All gallant up at the front of the
by
thing.
His side,
just
one leg up like Captain Morgan.
There's no wind, but he's...
And his hand resting on the direwolf's head. Theon Greyjoy was behind him, and Catelyn was behind the rowers in the boat. And
I wish somebody would push Theon in. Just push him off the boat.
That would be pretty great.
That would be wonderful.
Or like a Kraken reaches up and grabs him.
Oh, I hate that guy.
So cries of Winterfell and the banners of Tully greet them from the walls, and it was a stirring sight. Yet it doesn't lift Catelyn's heart.
Nah, because she's all upset still. God, get over it. No, she knows about Ned having been executed.
She wonders if her heart would ever lift again. Oh, Ned. And Julian actually pointed it out. Julian sent us an email for this episode. Shout out early to Julian. And he pointed out the italicized Catelyn thoughts, how just because every time it's italicized, she's thinking of her husband and how actually heartbreaking it is because, Ned's death destroys her. Like, it does something to her that it's just tragic.
It goes dark.
See. Yeah.
Because she's, got the moments of pride with Robb, but she keeps attributing it all to Ned.
So. Yeah. And so they pass under the Watergate's rusty portcullis, and Catelyn wonders if the rust should need replacing, considering that it may not stand up to a ram.
Yeah, which is basically where her thoughts are constantly these days.
Yeah, she's prepping for war.
Yeah, exactly. Which is technically the last order that Ned gave her, the last, command.
Yep.
And so
Admir Tully and some guards awaited them, and beside Admir was Tytos Blackwood.
Tytos Blackwood!
A hard pike of a man.
Wasn't Tytos Tywin's father's name?
Yes, it was.
I'm just checking.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if...
And Tytos, as we know... Tytos took the Lannister forces from behind when he saw Robb's men attacking. He opened Riverrun's gates and led his men out and helped siege from the back. So this is a pretty strategic, strong commander. So that I just thought it was interesting that we know that about him, and then he's described as this hard pike of a man. So Edmure comes out to help.
Calls everybody to bring him in. And there's a dude that trips the fuck out when Grey Wind hops off the boat. Mm-hmm. Just, who wouldn't?
And Theon lifts Catelyn out by her waist and sets her on the dry steps, and Edmure comes over to embrace her, looking battered and haggard, his neck bandaged from a wound, but Catelyn hugs him fiercely, and he hugs her back just as fiercely. It's this reconnecting a family, especially after a serious battle. Their home was just under siege, so it's sort of this rush of relief for Catelyn.
Yeah, did you say that he had a mouth made for smiles?
No.
Because she says that.
Edmure?
Edmure has a mouth made for smiles, but he's not smiling now.
Yeah.
But
he's a little goon.
He's just this little stocky, goofy fucking...
Yeah, no, I don't... And that's the funny thing is, I don't really have an opinion on Edmure Tully, because,
we don't really get to know him.
Yeah, he's a goon.
He seems like he'd be annoying, but likable enough in his own right.
Yeah, it seems like Peter Baelish would have been annoying to grow up with, too. And he begins swearing vengeance for Ned Cat. We will avenge him, we'll kill every Lannister, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, and you can see the compartmentalization here with her, where she's just kind of like, no, shut the fuck up.
Will that bring him back to me? And she thinks the wound was still too fresh. She couldn't think about Ned right now. It would not do. Put that away. You don't need it. Type of thing. Similar to compartmentalizing that not only most of our main characters have had to do, because Danny's done it as well, we've mentioned, but mainly the Starks are having a lot of these moments of you need to put that away. Yeah, and even Catelyn, and it's just odd with what we know Catelyn becomes, that I guess essentially that's not a good way to deal with your shit.
Right, but this is also the Sansa that we see, where we were comparing her to Cat with that hard resolve. And
that's it. I think if Catelyn was at Winterfell here, she'd be thinking about throwing herself from the battlements in the tower in grief. She would just give into it. And so I think that her having something to do, the countryside being at war now, is the only thing really keeping her going, in the fact she needs to get her daughters back, is the only thing keeping her up and not just collapsing into grief right now like she did with Bran.
So she immediately asks Edmure about her father, saying that she'd like to see him.
And he awaits you in his solar, Edmure tells her. He is bedridden, and his steward was instructed to bring her to him immediately. And so Edmure says that he will take her, and he leads her past where, through Riverrun, they enter now, and he leads her past where Peter and Brandon had dueled.
We're going to get a lot of that, flashbacks of childhood.
A million years ago, yeah. And she asks him, how bad is he? And she's dreading whatever Edmure has to say.
And he tells her exactly what she's dreading. Yeah. That he's dying. The Meisters don't give him long to live.
He's constantly in pain.
Yeah, it's bad news.
A blind rage filled her. Rage at all the world. At Edmure and Lysa. At the Lannisters. At the Maesters. At Ned and her father. And the monstrous gods who would take them both away from her.
And she says that she yells at him that somebody should have told me, what the fuck?
He forbade it. He didn't want his enemies knowing he was dying. He feared if the Lannisters suspected how frail he was, and he
Yeah.
doesn't finish the thought.
Now she, and this is common with grief in general, but technically it's not necessarily the most inaccurate statement, but she puts it all on herself for taking Tyrion.
Mm-hmm.
And technically, I'm pretty sure that we have said a few times throughout, and so have countless other people, if she didn't take him that night, would it all have gone down like this?
No, certainly not like this.
Yeah, and so, like, and it's, I mean, again, there's a million different other things that could have...
What ifs. We can, especially with a book like Game of Thrones, we can do what if all day.
She's, of course, going to find the one thing that is the cause because of her.
Yeah,
so that she can put it on. It was
your doing, yours, a voice whispered inside her, if you had not taken it upon yourself to seize the dwarf. And so, they enter into Lord Hoster's triangular solar. His bed had been moved out onto the balcony. He likes to sit in the sun and watch the waters, Edmure said, which reminded me of Drogo.
Yeah.
The way he liked to sit in the sun and watch the sun.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that's intentional.
State.
This is where he's at.
Yeah.
Like, this is very similar to what Dany just had to deal with, essentially. And so, Hoster Tully, he says, Father, look who I've brought. Cat has come to see you. And Catelyn thinks about the description of her father. He'd always been a big man, but now he seemed shrunken. His face sagged. Where once his brown hair and beard. Jesus, I can't read my own handwriting.
Bumbling
and stumbling. His face sagged. His once brown hair and beard were white as snow.
Little cat. And he's, like, he just lights up at the sight of her.
I watched for you, which is a play on him telling her, watch for me, little cat.
Yeah.
And so Edmure leaves them to talk, and Catelyn nails to him and says, you should have told me, a rider, a raven. And for such a catatonic state, he's extremely
aware
intelligent.
Right now. Yeah.
Riders are taken, questioned, ravens are brought down, and he spasms. The crabs are in my belly, pinching, always pinching. I wanted to see you, was afraid I'd go before I could. And yeah, I think it's incredible that he's, like, compared to Drogo in this sort of catatonic state, yet he doesn't want to get word out that he is as ill as he is.
Well, that and then, because he next mentions that he sleeps a lot these days.
Yeah.
The Meisters mix him wine, drinking wine, milk of the poppy, and all these things help him sleep.
Up.
But he wanted to be conscious for when she was here, so he dealt with the pain and hasn't been unconscious. And so, like, to be, even when you're that drugged up, aware enough to be like, I've got to get off this shit long enough for her to...
Yeah, talk to my daughter. Yeah, she tells him, I'm here, Father, with Robb, my son. And your boy, Hoster whispered. He had my eyes, I remember. He does, Catelyn says. And we've brought you Jaime Lannister and irons. Riverrun is free again, Father. And Lord Hoster smiled. I saw. I made them carry me to the battlements. 'Twas such a sweet sight. And he asks, was it you who did it? Your Robb? Or your boy who did it? Your Robb? And Cat says yes, and she's fiercely proud.
Yeah, because he was asking about, he saw the tower out there, like the siege tower burn down, and he was like, was that him? Was that the boy?
And she says, yes, Father, Robb and Brendan, your brother is here as well, my lord.
Him.
The Blackfish came back from the Vale.
And he gets all, like, excited here, thinking that Lysa also came.
Did she come as well?
No, that bitch is batshit.
Yeah, no. And his face falls. I'd hoped to see her before. Why did she not come with you?
'Cause she's crazy as fuck.
She's frightened, is the answer Cat gives. In the Eyrie, she feels safe. Will you see Robb now? And Brendan? Your son? Yes, bring him. Yes. And your brother? And immediately we get back to the initial...
Yeah, the fighting that caused Brendan Blackfish Tully to...
Blackfish? Has he wed yet? Has he taken some girl to wife? And Cat thinks that even on his deathbed, and it's a sad thought for her, that this was the initial feud between these two brothers, and he still can't let it go. So she says, no, he has not taken a wife.
But he, and he goes on talking about the different matches that were made for him, and he even references the conversation she had with Walder Frey, where he had said that Hoster had slighted him for refusing his wives.
Yeah.
And part of that was because Brendan, the Blackfish, refused one, and then he also denied Edmure that time. But eventually he concedes and says he's too old to fight.
Yeah.
And agrees to let him come in and meet with him.
Yeah. Yeah, because she says, no, he hasn't married anyone. Yeah, he's come many leagues to see you, fighting his entire way here. And her father says, ever the warrior, send him later. So she kisses him gently and left him, and he was asleep before she left the Solar. And she goes down to the lower bailey where Sir Brendan came up to her and asked, is he... And she answers, dying, and as we feared, and her uncle's face showed his pain as he asks, will he see me? So, like, Brendan really just does want to see his brother one final time. And Catelyn nods, asking where Robb went. And so he says he went with Greyjoy to the hall.
Theon, who directs Cat, because she goes down to the Great Hall where he's entertaining a bunch of fucking...
Speaking of bumbling and stumbling.
This stupid cunt is sitting there bragging his fucking ass off about being a fucking asshole and how great of an asshole he is, because fuck Theon, to all the Tully guards.
Yeah,
and stuff.
She interrupts him. Where might I find my son? The Godswood, my lady. And she immediately thinks it is what Ned would have done. He is his father's son as much as mine. I must remember.
And that is where Ned would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think, because she's mentioned how similar he is a lot. But I like this chapter because we have Hoster Tully, who is sitting there saying, he looks just like me. Remember, he looks like, the one that looks like me, he has my eyes. He has the Tully hair, like, she's going to constantly be getting that Tully, but she's forcing Ned's image onto him.
Well, I mean, not really. He's
definitely showing
he's
Ned.
In the exact same pensive pose his father's always taken in front of the heart tree.
Yeah, I just think it's funny that we get so much of that Tully being brought forward.
Yeah.
And yet still he's seen as the Stark.
Yeah, it's this total comparison because he's got the wolf next to him. So she found Robb beneath a green canopy of leaves, surrounded by tall redwoods and great old elms, kneeling before the heart tree.
But he was not alone.
A slender werewood with a face more sad than fierce, which I just think is so goddamn interesting that the fucking tree in Riverrun is more sad than fierce. With all the trauma that Cat goes through and Lysa.
It definitely sounds like more of a Tully werewood.
That's it. Like, it's like just kind of the weight they all tend to carry.
It would absolutely be the reverse in Winterfell.
It'd be
way
more fierce than sad. Yeah, absolutely.
So on top of Robb, we also have Lords Umber, Karstark. We have Mage Mormont, which is Old Bear's Mormont's sister that he was talking about.
Galbert Glover.
And many more. Even Tytos Blackwood is here.
Yeah, Robb is in front of them all with his longsword point thrust into the ground, and she reminds herself that these are the ones who keep the old gods. And she asks herself what gods she kept these days and found that she had no answer.
So I like this chapter. Here we go, finally, bringing up Lady Stoneheart. The way that she just seems to have forsaken the gods in this chapter. And you see it a bit when Ned first got captured and, like, when he got attacked, all that shit in her other chapters. But, like, this one, she's very much like, what kind of cruel gods would take this and this? And
well, it's funny that when Bran is injured, she's praying to the Mother for mercy. You know, she's doing all the things that she needs to do for the Seven. And then, by the end of this book,
before the book's even over,
she can't decide what god she wants to pray to, and she's forsaken the gods because she believes the gods have forsaken her family and her, and so she's already got that coldness. That's the stone heart thing going, where she's hardening herself.
Right.
It's beyond what is really needed. Obviously, her husband just died. That's terrible. Her children are captives. Like, she has a reason to be grieving, but she's forsaking her God. Yeah. She's just ready to essentially die for the cause if it means getting these people. Like,
right.
She's in it
Already
to win
looking
it.
at the revenge side of things. But anyway, she starts thinking back about when she used to play at Kissing with Peter Baelish and Lysa Arryn.
Yeah.
Here in this Godswood. Because, it's not so much a place of prayer here for them as it is a place to play.
She hadn't thought of it in years, and she could almost feel his sweaty fingers on her shoulders and taste the mint on his breath, as there was a mint plant in the Godswood that he liked to chew on.
Yeah.
And they, Lysa and her talk about, and, like, I really do think it's important that Cat mentions to Lysa he tried to put his tongue in my mouth.
Yeah.
And she's kind of revolted by it. But Lysa's like, oh, no, he did the same to me, and I really liked it.
We were just discussing the other day how we know, and everyone knows, that George Martin is a gardener of an author. He plants seeds and they grow. And, like, I can just see the relationship there, like, from that. Like, this just sprouting into this obsession with him. And, like,
where Lysa eventually gets him drunk
Yeah.
and has sex with him and, is willing to do all these things. Lysa is immediately from a child. Because children playing at kissing games, that's really, like, that's nothing crazy. But the enthusiasm that Catelyn remembers Lysa having over and Lysa was 4 at the time, or like 5. She was really young. She was younger than Cat and Peter. Cat and Peter are both of age,
but
of an age
even
together.
Cat is younger, or Peter is younger than Cat.
Yeah.
No, because Peter's younger than Lysa. I thought it said in there that Cat was that Lysa was quite a bit younger, but Peter was the youngest of them all.
Oh, was he? Well, whatever it was still that the younger of the two sisters is the one that's ready to have a boy's tongue in her mouth, and she's pumped about it. But Robb got slowly back up to his feet and sheathed his sword, and she wonders if Robb had ever kissed a girl in the Godswood. Surely he had. He'd ridden in battle and killed men with a sword. She'd seen the way some of the prettier looking girls around Winterfell used to look with him. Surely he'd been kissed. And there are tears in her eyes suddenly, and she wipes them away angrily. She's contemplating the future, or what could have been.
Yeah,
she wants him to be a normal kid, just like Bran, before his fall. She wants Robb to be able to kiss and play at kissing games and live the kid life.
Yeah, it's just that, things can't be that way, and I want to dream about them. So
Robb notices her.
And tells her that they need to immediately call a council. There's been some developments. And
she says, your grandfather would like to see you. He's very sick, Robb. And Robb continues saying, Edmure told me, and I'm very sorry, Mother, for Hoster and for you, but we must meet first. Renly Baratheon has claimed his brother's crown.
Yeah, and so Cat immediately...
Cat's like, Renly?
Hold up. What about Stannis, though? What about the Menace?
And that's it. That's the line. What about Stannis? And then we get to the War Council. The War Council convened in the Great Hall. Lord Hoster was too weak to attend. Edmure had the high seat of the Tullys, the Blackfish at his side. And word of the victory had drawn even some of the fugitive lords of the Trident. The new Lord Carl Vance came in with Mark Piper. The Northern Lords were fewer in the hall, the Great John at Robb's left, Catelyn at his right. Lord Rickard Karstark, a gaunt and hollow-eyed from grief, took his seat like a man in a nightmare. God, I love that description.
Yeah, man.
He had left 2 sons dead in the Whispering Wood, and there was no word of his eldest, who led the Karstark spears against Tywin on the Green Fork. So they all argue late into the night, and similar to
the War Council with Tywin.
Tywin Lannister, Catelyn sat and listened to it all.
Robb.
And so did Robb.
Which I think is very Tyrion Tywin. Robb Cat, like the father-son, mother-son, like, but reversed roles, like,
and a woman in there.
It's so strange.
So
and funny.
We learn, they learn Roose Bolton had reformed the battered remnants of their other hosts. Sir Mayo, Helmund Tallheart, and Walder Frey still held the twins. We get the last mention of Sir Mayo, and we wanted to bring that up because we were wondering when treachery would start or if anything. But so far, They're holding it down.
Sir Mayo.
Sir Mayo and Frey got it. That sounds like a bad band.
It does. Yeah.
We're Mayo and Frey.
Mayo and Frey.
This is our first song, Moist.
At Casterly Rock Live.
And so Tywin's army had crossed the Trident, making for Harrenhal. And there were 2 kings in the realm now. Many thought they should march on Harrenhal at once.
And end Tywin's rule now. Others wanted to wait and kind of held back, resupply, stock up, rest.
Jonas Bracken insisted that they join up with Renly. Renly is not the king, is the first thing Robb had spoken. Like his father, he knew how to listen. And Robb breaks it down.
Yeah, man. He just calls them out on some shit.
Stannis has the right. After, not Renly, just as it's Joffrey and then Tommen, or Robb and then Bran. Like, this is elementary, my dear Watson. Like, essentially, Robb is, you're done.
Yeah, he's breaking it down logically.
If we're going to swear to someone, we need to go to Stannis, because, obviously, and that's what Ned did. Like, Ned, Renly came to Ned.
Yeah.
Renly straight up came to Ned and asked, and Ned was like, I can't. Like, it's your brother's claim, not yours. So.
Yeah, what the fuck are you thinking, bro?
And so, Mark Piper says that joining Renly will join 5 of the 7 great houses against the Rock. 6 if the Arryns bestir themselves. We'll have them all. What does Stannis have against that we should cast it all aside?
And once again, sounding just like Ned, all that Robb says is the right.
Yeah. He's got the right to it. He's got the right claim. Sir Stevron says, we should wait and see who wins. Lord Tywin would most likely welcome a truce, should he...
Yeah, because he says that his father would urge caution and let the others play their Game of Thrones.
Oh, so if you couldn't tell, Sir Stevron is a fucking Frey.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he wants to wait and see. Whoever is looking like they're coming out on top, we'll do them.
And he says, head for Tywin with a truce, and man, do the Northerners...
Well, he's like, let me go, my lords. I'd be happy to give terms and arrange terms.
Holy fuck, like...
Yeah. So that was my, the first thing with the phrase, in Tywin, is, this here.
Yeah.
Is this Sir Stevron just taking it upon himself to be like his father? Or is this something that was already... Did Lord Walder Frey tell him, if it's going, you need to find Tywin and get the fuck out of there?
I think he just knows his father, and that's what whether they actually vocalized it or not, that's exactly what Walder Frey would do and tell him to do. So, yeah, I think it's that.
So, a roar of outrage drowned out his voice, and the Northerners are just not having it. And Catelyn very quietly asks, why not peace? And Robb's eyes find her. My lady, they murdered my lord father, your husband. And he unsheathed his long sword and laid it on the table before him. This is the only peace I have left for the Lannisters. And the lords roar their approval. Sir Roderick would once again be very fucking upset.
Yeah.
Stop unsheathing your blade, Robb. You can make the point without laying the sword there.
But it really did make the point for the Northerners, because the Northerners are so willing to hype up over fucking anything at this point.
And Cat waits and then goes on to say, do you think I love him less than you? If that sword could bring Ned back to me, I would never let you sheathe it until Ned stood by my side once more. But Ned is gone, as are the others. Must we have more deaths still? Bam.
Yeah.
And then...
But she gets called out for being a woman.
Yep.
Nah, Lady Catelyn, this is a man's game.
You're a woman. Women do not understand.
Where's our sandwiches, wench?
Why are you bleeding everywhere?
Christ.
Karstark says, you are the gentlest sex. A man has need for vengeance.
Yo, in this, she's like... Let me get or she says, give me Cersei, and you would see how gentle a woman can be.
Fuck, how about you introduce fucking any of those Northerners to Lady Stoneheart and see how fucking gentle this woman can be. Fuck dude. You guys.
Yeah, fuck
off, you guys.
Karstark. And she says...
that makes sense.
She says, we went to war when Lannister armies were ravaging the Riverlands, and Ned was a prisoner falsely accused of treason. We fought to defend ourselves and win my lord's freedom. One is done, the other is forever beyond our reach. I will mourn for Ned until the end of my days, but I must think of the living. I want my daughters back, and I want you safe, Robb, ruling at Winterfell from your father's seat. I want an end to this. I want to go home, my lords, and weep for my husband. Okay. I'm with her.
Yeah, let's end the war.
Can we maybe have a vote?
Let's
I'll put my hand
no
up.
democracies. This is
She's a woman.
No.
Yeah.
And
The hall was at least quiet when she finished. Like,
yeah, I mean they at least listened to her.
and like if anybody was gonna speak up, I'm really glad that
It's
it
the
is her
Blackfish.
uncle Brendan,
Yes.
who says, "Peace is sweet, my lady, but on what terms?" And
Yeah, essentially he's saying that even if we call the peace right now, it's only a matter of time before the Lannisters get fed up or
well, what is
like,
what is the peace? Like, there's gonna need to be like exchanges of hostages and like what we're gonna give Jaime Lannister for the two girls.
Yeah,
We've already
and, like-
we all know that really isn't viable. And then Karstark speaks up. What did Torrin and my Eddard die for if I return to Cawhold with nothing but their bones? And again, just that kicks up all the fucking arguing again.
Which, I mean, as a bannerman, it's kind of expected. Like, sorry sucks to suck at this point in that world, but he has that point. Like, we've traveled down here, and all that I've got out of it is a truce to get what we could have gotten from the start, and 2 dead sons.
Potentially 3.
And, yeah, like it's a shitty
Catelyn
situation.
thinks that she was so close. They
Yeah.
had almost listened to her, but there would be no peace, no chance to heal, no safety. And she watches her son frowning, yet wedded to his war. He'd pledged to marry a Frey girl, but she saw his true bride plain now. The sword on the table. Which, that's it. Robb is dedicated now that his father is dead, to
Yeah.
going to war. That was it. There is no peace. Just like Tyrion. It's the same thing as the cup on the... Robb's is a sword, but it's the same thing as the cup on the floor of the Shattered Cup. So the Great John lurched up to his feet. Do you have this quote? Because I feel like you would have a much better Great John.
Why shouldn't we rule ourselves? We married the dragons and they're all dead. There sits the only king I mean to bow my knee, my lords. The king in the north.
You really needed to turn to your notes for that? And he knelt and he laid his sword down at Robb's feet. I'll have peace on those terms, Lord Karstark said. They can keep the Red Castle and their iron chair as well. He eased his longsword out. The king in the north, he said, kneeling beside the Great John.
And then the
Mage
Mage
Mormont stands and says, the king of winter. Like,
King
nah,
of
I'll do you
Winter.
one better, bitch.
And she takes her fucking mace and lays that down.
Beside the
Like,
swords. The
fuck
river lords
yeah.
were rising too. Blackwood, Bracken, Mallister, houses never before ruled by Winterfell. Yet they rose and drew their blades and knelt, shouting the old words that hadn't been heard in the realm for more than 300 years.
Shark bait, roo-ha-ha.
Since Aegon the Dragon had
Oh,
come to
right.
make the 7 kingdoms one, yet now they were heard again, ringing from the timbers of her father's hall.
Shark bait, roo-ha-ha.
I hate you so fucking
The king
much.
in the north.
The king in the north. And that's it.
Man, that moment's inspiring.
So we've got our 3rd king in the realm.
I got
for
hype
this
as
war of the
fuck.
5. Yeah, how can you not?
Dude, it was crazy reading that again. Yeah, my heart was racing, and I stood up, and I got kicked out of the library, but I was shouting the king in the north.
King in the north.
I didn't.
You didn't. You
I
don't
should
read
have.
at the
Would have been cool.
library.
I don't. But, and that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, that's the end of Catelyn's
Yeah.
chapters.
So that leaves us with one chapter left
One
of
more.
the entire book, Game of Thrones.
But we're not going to talk about that because we're going to give our inductees.
Well,
You got
that's
one?
what yeah.
Good. Who is it?
Gee, shotgun fire the questions at me. I haven't thought about this until now.
All right, I'll
so-
give mine. Mine is Mage Mormont for upping everybody with the King of Winter.
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, that's such a bold claim with what's
The King of
coming.
Winter, yeah.
So I just thought that was pretty great. That, this bitch, one with her spiked Morning Star, or her spiked mace, just laying that down is, way cooler than a longsword. And then the fact that she's not just the King in the North, the King of Winter, motherfuckers. So,
Word.
and I just like all the Mormonts because they're badass bitches who fuck shit up. So yeah, Mage Mormont.
So then I'm going to give mine to Stefan Frey because
Wow.
that guy's got some balls to sit in
yeah,
front
he
of
does,
this entire, like, the Riverlands and, like, hey, guys,
That's so valid.
So my dad was saying, listen,
Let's be fucking...
let's just chill back here and see if the Starks all die, and if you do, run to Tywin quick. But listen, you lived, so how about I just go to Tywin and say, hey, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
Like, are you that daft? Like, I can't believe they didn't throw him out in the goddamn river right
Oh,
then.
he went for it.
So Stefan Frey for having some fucking balls. Anyway, we also got a write-in.
Jeez, that's a good one. Fuck that guy. I never looked at it. Like, yeah, that does take a lot of balls, man. Yeah, we got, as I mentioned earlier, an email from our friend Julian in France.
From France.
And as I mentioned earlier, he had mentioned the italic sentences and how just heartbreaking it is whenever Catelyn thinks of Ned. But he says also that I must put a word here for asshole Theon bragging once again. I share your warm aversion for that character. Hated him in the series so much, even the beautiful redemption arc didn't make it up to me. Still can't. And my inductee would be Brendan the Blackfish again.
Yeah.
He was the first one to respond to Catelyn that peace would be no use in this situation. An answer that the others would bring the others to share their opinion until the great John sets fire to the place with that brilliant speech. The King in the North!
King in the North!
Fuck yeah. Valor Northarius.
Northarius. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, the Blackfish, because I agree. I don't think there's anyone else in the room that had a right to speak to Catelyn at that point, besides Robb or her uncle. And so the fact that it was him saying, like, yeah, like, peace would be fucking wonderful, but how? Like, how can we realistically do it right now? And then, yeah, the great John coming in.
And then a bunch of people called in to back him up, too, with some of the guys from the Riverlands that are like, the mountain burned down my shit.
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck would I agree to this?
Well, I mean, but Catelyn's over,
yeah, no,
like,
absolutely.
Tit for tat, I lost this, you lost this.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's lost some shit at this point. It sucks. It's war. But, yeah, thank you, Julian. As always, we appreciate your email and your odd takes on Valor to Harris that are fun to read.
Yeah.
And so if you would like to get in contact with us, like Julian does, and so many other inductees that have been read throughout the series.
Right into us. You can get a hold of us a million different ways. Maybe not that many. That's a lot of ways. Our email is withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. We are on Instagram @mannerswithout. Nate is on Twitter @mannerswithout. Zach is on Twitter @carstark92. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Brotherhood Podcast. And our Patreon, where we put up sweet bonus content episodes. Patreon.com/withoutmanners. What are you pointing at?
Did you do an email?
I did the email very first.
Okay.
Fucking listen when I talk. Don't be over there like rubbing your face. You're like, I'm too good to listen when Nate talks.
I mean, who isn't?
Shut the fuck up. Valor to Harris.
Can we...
No, I was ready to go.
Chill?
I didn't want you to have anything. I guess
Join us next episode when we're finishing the fucking book. Wow.
I was trying
finishing the book with Daenerys 10.
Yeah, the final
episode of Game of Thrones. And then we're going to have our wrap-up of the whole book where we talk about the whole thing as a whole before jumping into, as we said, a little break between episodes for getting some of Clash of Kings prepped and in the barrel for you guys. But that won't be too long at all of a hiatus.
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks at most is what we're thinking.
And so, send us in inductees for the final chapter for Daenerys 10.
And start sending them in for Clash of Kings.
Yeah, and Clash of Kings.
Or if you're way ahead, we've mentioned, we got a folder there for all those future episodes once we get to those books that you may be rereading right now. And so, whatever. Send anything you want.
Yeah, as this dipshit said, Valor to Harris.
Peace!